Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. It is Friday, June 17th, 2022. Let's talk about one of the best fights that could be made. It's actually happening this weekend at Madison Square Garden. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, the light heavyweight division is one of the best divisions in the sport right now. You have some of the sport's more underrated fighters, right? One of them, in my opinion, is Joe Smith. Now, Joe Smith is facing Arthur Beterbiev, right? Just understand there's a huge casino mispricing here. I consider it to be big. Arthur Beterbiev has a 100% KO ratio, folks. 100%. No one has gone the distance in Beterbiev fights. More importantly, he himself hasn't gone the distance. Let me repeat that. Beterbiev, because he has a 100% KO ratio, has never been forced to go the distance. He's facing Joe Smith. The last guy Joe Smith lost to is the guy who's the real winner of this fight, beterbiev. And let me just say, from this seat, I thought Joe Smith, who I believe is underrated, looked better against Bivol than did Canelo. Right? The reason Bivol is the big winner of this fight is that Anthony Yarde is going to be the mandatory for the winner of this fight. Right? So, have your enemies fight each other. Bivol doesn't have to worry about seeing Joe Smith again. Bivol won the fight but had to be on his horse to do it. Right? He doesn't have to think about fighting both Beterbiev and Yarde, because these guys all are fighting each other. Right? 2 of the 3 are going to be removed from the equation. Now, the mispricing here, and it's a huge mispricing, comes from the fact that neither of these guys has a back foot. Both of these guys are among the hardest punchers in the sport of boxing. Right now, in a sport where the last Daniel Dubois fight had an over-under number of 3.5 rounds, believe it or not, this fight is getting an 8.5 rounds. I like the under 8.5 rounds. Folks, I don't see this fight making it to the midway point of the 9th round. Please understand that the Marcus Brown fight, which went several rounds, had Brown moving away from Beterbiev. Right here, Joe Smith is going to be in the pocket. Some guys, Daniel Dubois, for example, are better off jumping in the pocket than jumping out of the pocket. Joe Smith is that rare fighter who can stay in the pocket. He's not going to be moving away from Beterbiev. This fight is going to be nonstop action in Joe Smith's backyard. Right? He's a tri-stater. He's from Long Island. This is in Madison Square Garden. Right? This is in New York Knick country. Right? That's where Joe Smith calls home. Not Manhattan necessarily, Long Island, but understand, it's the New York City area. Right? So, I'm expecting a shootout. I think the reason the line is so high is because of fights like the Maxim Vlasov fight against Joe Smith that went several rounds. Right? The beterbiev fight against Joe Smith that went several rounds. Understand, those fights went several rounds because those 2 guys are masterful on their back foot. Here, Beterbiev is going to be coming in nonstop at angles, throwing punches. Joe Smith hits hard. Joe Smith is going to be the opponent who says, all right, let's trade. somebody is going to be hurt. I'll take my chances that it's not me. So I'm expecting somebody to get stopped. I've taken the under 8.5 rounds. Now let's talk about the real play here, and it's dangerous. I just told you beterbiev has a 100% KO ratio. Right? His game is to come in at angles. Right? He'll come in on your left hand or he'll come in on your right hand at an angle where he's throwing punches with both hands. Heavy volume, heavy power shots. Doesn't spend a lot of time jabbing his way in. Is skillful about it to the point where Bivol himself is giving beterbiev the edge in this fight. I'm not. Right? Just understand, if I were the odds maker on this fight, I would have Joe Smith the slight favorite. Joe Smith has better defense. Joe Smith has a construct. I want you to look at Smith's shoulders and Smith's arms as he throws hooks. He tucks his head, he has his shoulders up, then he starts throwing hooks like this. Right? He's not waiting for openings, he's making openings. He's throwing heavy volume himself. If beterbiev thinks he doesn't have to keep his hands up for defense, he's kidding himself. Now understand, while I, just one gambler out there, would make Joe a slight favorite, especially since the fight's in Joe's backyard, right? Beterbiev these days fights out of Canada. He'll be in the New York area for this fight. Just to understand, the casinos had Joe Smith the huge underdog. I don't understand it. So I was able to jump in when Joe Smith was a plus 550. You heard me right. Right? They were telling you that Joe Smith would win once every time beterbiev won 5.5 fights. The line's dropped, but it's something like a plus 450 right now. Right? It's still higher right now than 4-1. Folks, I think somebody's going to get stopped. I think Joe Smith has at least as good a shot of stopping beterbiev as beterbiev has of stopping him. So the play I like is the under 8.5 rounds. Understand, folks, you're getting better than even money odds on that play. Right? Hedged with Joe Smith simply to win. If Joe Smith wins this fight before the midway point of the 9th round, you win both halves of the bet. If Joe Smith can't hang with the big public favorite, Arthur Beterbiev, right? The betting favorite, not mine, but the rest of the world's, right? Beterbiev is the big favorite here. As long as the fight ends before the midway point of the 9th round, you win. Right? Your hedge holds. Keep in mind, too, you could structure the bet where more of the money is on the under than on Joe Smith simply to win. Folks, you're getting huge leverage on the Joe Smith bet. You should be able to structure the bet in a way where if either happens, you make a profit. Right? So, I think Joe Smith here is a live underdog. Beterbiev is 37. I didn't think he looked that good against Marcus Brown. That's the fight where he's bleeding from a forehead, and they rule that the cut came from a headbutt. I want you to look at the film carefully. By chance, Marcus Brown hits him right where he starts bleeding profusely right before their heads clash. Right? I'm not sure if that cut Beterbiev had was from a punch before the headbutt or from the headbutt itself. I'll say this, though. The cut was bleeding profusely, and let's just say Beterbiev could not keep that cut from reopening. Right? He kept coming. at Marcus Brown. And I understand that, right? There was some panic. At one point, it seemed like the referee said to Beterbiev, who started slow, right? Brown may have won the first 2 rounds. The ref appears to say to Beterbiev, I'm going to make this, I'm going to give you 1 more round. So there was urgency in the Beterbiev side of the ledger. But understand, he had a cut forehead, and I didn't see him being slick about it. In other words, I didn't see him coming in with a hand up, coming in with a lean, right? Lean that cut away from the other guy. If he's going to jump deep in the pocket, I didn't see him do what Tyson Fury did against Otto Wallin, right? Put that head, up on the guy. Put the cut up on the other guy's body so he can't punch it as you work inside. So I didn't think 37-year-old Beterbiev looked that good against Marcus Brown. I'm just telling you that, in my opinion, Joe Smith has some of the best stamina in the sport of boxing. Right? So this is a big-time fight. I like the under 8.5 rounds. I'm expecting somebody to get stopped. And I'll be the casino's huckleberry. As a hedge, I have Joe Smith simply to win. Let me just say this too. If the fight actually makes it past the halfway point of the 9th round, I'm good as long as Joe Smith wins the fight. Then you're getting the long odd part of the play, right? Again, Joe Smith, a guy with great stamina, is fighting at Madison Square Garden in New York City, his backyard, right? Against a guy who is 37 and has never gone the distance. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I think this fight's mispriced. Not just the Joe Smith side of the ledger, but the over-under. How does Daniel Dubois get a 3.5 round over-under? And you're telling me Beterbiev and Joe Smith are going off at 8.5 rounds? Hey, casino, I'm not complaining. Rather, I'm taking the under. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.